Howdy, howdy. Welcome to Jason's Thoughts, episode 90. Hassan, my friend, great to see you. How are you doing?
I am doing well, Jason. I know it's been a while since we connected on New Year's resolutions and our thoughts on them. So things are going really well. A lot warmer since January. So definitely everything's on the move. How have you been? How's life been on your end?
Not warmer. We've literally got snow coming down right now for late March. So not happy about that, but that's okay. It takes all the dirt and grime of kind of spring and makes it all white and bright again. So I'll embrace it the best I can.
You know what? I like that you're embracing the imperfection of weather. And with that, we can segue to what we want to talk about today.
Yeah. That wasn't planned, was it? But naturally, naturally came up. So yeah, we talked a little bit and threw a bunch of ideas around, and I thought embracing imperfection would be a really good, just a good conversation to talk about, and around things like what is perfection, why do we seek perfection, and realistically as humans, we're built to be imperfect actually, which is kind of what makes us unique. So we'll go into some areas and talk about it, but want to pass the mic to you, and if you have any updates for us too, or any way you want to kick us off too.
Sure. I typically like to begin with a quote, usually for the last four or five that we've done. But
Yeah.
this one will be more of a Japanese artwork that I'll kind of speak to. They have
Wow.
this. I think it's in ancient Japan. If there would be a bowl or ceramic, things that were broken, to reforge and
Right.
rebind, they would use gold to bring the
Nice.
pieces together, kind of bringing beauty and wealth almost to the imperfection, and you'd almost create something better and newer. And so that's where I'd love to sort of just kick us off of like there are things of imperfection, and I guess I'd mentally I see it in one of two ways. There's I'm not perfect, accept me as I am, or I'm not
Yes.
perfect and I have some work to do. And I find that
Mm,
this bowl analogy hits both. Like you accept the bowl for what it is. Its utility hasn't changed, whether it was not broken or broken, but one
yeah.
has clearly had some work done and was better for it in many
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of kick it over to you, Jason. So you picked this topic. What
Yeah.
inspired this topic to you? Like, what kind of triggered it? What were your thoughts initially on perfection versus imperfection?
Yeah. I think for me, it's because I wanted to have some self-reflection through this conversation, and I know you always have some really good points, but I feel like I've always strived to be perfect, right? So like whatever it is that I do, whether it's at my job or whether it's a small renovation or it's my car, I always like it has to be like 100%. Like it has to be absolutely perfect. Even for myself, it's like, okay, well, I want to strive to get to X weight and I want to be super healthy, and X, Y, and Z. But um, it causes a reverse effect when you don't succeed or you're not there yet, which is stress, right? And so for me, it's just about unpacking that. Like, okay, like why do we seek this thing called perfection, right? Like, where does it come from? And that's part of it. Is like, you know, do we define this perfect house? Like, we have to capture that perfect house. We have to have the perfect job. We have to have the perfect health, the perfect body, the perfect family, like everything, and everything's kind of fed to us that way. And so for me, again, it's like, man, like, why do I stress over some of these things, right? I'm not a perfect person. I've never claimed to be. Um, and I think for me, it's like, I've started to just like start accepting who I am, and building off of that, which has also reduced my stress levels.
You know, I find that very beautiful, Jason, and I love the things you mentioned in the realm of that you seek perfection, whether it's in yourself, your physicality, like you're a guy that loves fitness. You're also a guy that loves cars as well,
Yeah.
right? And so I, I guess it's more of a thought that provoked in my head.
Yeah.
When you think a car, like you've worked on a car and you say, ah, perfect, what does that look like to you?
Shiny, untouched, clean, no dings, perfect interior, perfect exterior, right? Pristine, and just looks like a thing of beauty and art.
Perfect. And that beauty is kind of beheld upon your eyes. Like in your eyes, this is clean. This is exactly what you need it to be. Now,
Yes.
if we I don't want to get too analytical on vocabulary, but when we think of a perfect car, a perfect car in a perfect world never breaks down. A perfect car in a perfect world doesn't eat so much gas, all these other things. Now,
True.
in this perception of yours, you've defined perfection in a way, in a lens that you see it. Now,
Yes.
you've defined perfection in the body shop of like this looks pristine, it looks clean. How do you define perfection in physicality?
Oh, and my own physicality? Well, this is where the problem is, and I think we've talked about it before, like social media, right? And you know, just let the the algorithm catch you, right? And so you look up fitness one time, and then you go right down that every single reel that you're looking at is going to be fitness, and it's kind of thrust upon you, right? It's like, here's this guy, he's 6'2", he's 205 pounds, he's 10% body fat, you can see all of his abs, like and so to me it's like, oh, well, that's got to be perfection. That's what I got to get to.
Now, your ideas of perfection, have they been linear since you were a child to as an adult? Like there have been moments where little mini Jason's got toy cars, he's lined up in a perfect line and he's got it by size and color, like that's perfect and things like that. Like if you had to summarize between adolescent Jason to adult Jason, how does that
Yeah.
Jason personify the term perfection?
Yeah, funny enough, because also doing it kind of my soul searching was like, I wasn't like that as a kid, right? I used to be messy, like my hair was a mess, like
Mm-hmm.
I and and yeah, I didn't care, right? I didn't care how I looked. I didn't care too much about anything. I don't think a lot of kids do, but the toys were always a mess. My hockey cards were all over the place. Like it was a disaster probably if I ever asked my mom. But and so I think as I got older and then started, having my own life out of my family and growing up as a young adult, somewhere along there, I inherited this need, this striving for better and perfect. And so that's where I think when, as I grow older, social media started. Not going to talk about social media or internet when I was younger because it didn't exist. But I think as we get older, or I've gotten older, and internet's increased, and our consumption of feeds and things like that and reels, I think the perfection is increased with it, right? Because it's all that I'm seeing. And I think that's kind of probably in the last 10 years probably shifted me to go, yeah, like, gotta have the nicest suit. I've got to have the nicest car, or not the nicest
Mm,
car necessarily, but really, really clean, really, really perfect.
interesting.
Hmm.
Now, I'm going to throw a curveball at you, and I hope Karen receives this well. Do you think your
Yeah.
wife is perfect as a perfect partner for you? Answer
Yes.
carefully.
Yes. Well, and I think why is because um, she embraces my imperfections, right? And
Mm,
and it's like part of that is like, just instead of being judgmental and it's not perfect, like understands that those imperfections are what kind of makes me who I am. and they build worth in a bit of a different way. Plus, it's like hard to keep up to someone that is perfect, right? It's like, oh, well, if they're perfect, well, I also need to be perfect, and maybe that doesn't fit. It's not authentic, right? All of a sudden you're putting on this mask of fakeness to be at their level, right?
100%. And Jason, what I love about what you're saying so far is there seems to be two paths of perfection that kind of run parallel. There's one that's societal perfection based on what we're seeing
Yes.
through social media, through algorithms, through quote unquote influencers. But then there's a personal sense of perfection as well. Like societally, whether your wife is perfect or not, that's up to society to kind of view and judge. But personally, you find perfection in her because she embraces your imperfections. And so
Hmm.
it's interesting to see sort of the bridges between like what does Jason see and view as and what society views and where the influences can impact the other. I find it
Yep.
interesting on LinkedIn, especially when you talk about like kind of the like I don't want to accuse anybody of being fake, but sometimes you hear these incredible posts on, oh
Yes.
yeah, I wake up at 4 a.m. I do a run, I read 3 pages, and then I start my day. I'm like, no way, like come on, like
Yeah.
surely not, right? Like I,
Yeah.
like fine, I see merit to few of these things, right? I see merit to the
Yeah.
perfection of and schedule of like we're routined. Like in like the
Yeah.
if we take your car example, right? Like it's clean, it's comfortable, it's easy to view. Like I see merit to that. But then where
Yeah.
perfection and those things can kind of become problematic is number one, hyper fixation on the perfection. Like, oh my God, one
Correct.
scuff, oh my God, it just rained, and now like, get enough, get enough. Or
Yeah.
if you're not
Yeah.
waking up, if one day you woke up at 4:50 instead of 4:30, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
not that's 20 minutes I could have been bawling, man, like just whatever nonsense you hear. Right? So I find
Yeah.
the virtues of chasing for perfection enhances yourself, and it gives like that, oh, it's clean, it's organized, it's there. But then just over that line is like you're a psycho.
Yeah. Did you just call me a psycho, Hassan?
No, definitely not. But what I mean is like if you become
Kidding.
like so
Yes.
fixated, it just
Yes.
gets to that. Now,
Yeah.
when you mentioned, what perfection versus not in the strive for, did you see yourself as, man, I'm Jason, I got a lot of work to do and I want to be this version, and there's something wrong with this? Like how we've seen how you define perfection, and like some of the buzzwords are clean, together, organized, beautiful to look at. It's same whether it's bodies or cars, or the bodies
Yes.
of cars, right?
Yes.
It
Yeah.
like even if you look at a car, it's shiny, interior's clean, exterior's clean. Bodies,
Yeah.
muscles are defined, abs are showing. That's
Yeah.
perfection. What does imperfection look like to you? And I will ask it in two ways. One, what imperfection is uncomfortable and what imperfection is acceptable to you as human, to Jason?
Hmm. Yeah. I think the acceptable one is it has been work. Like I've had to work towards it, because I mean that there's it's about embracing that fact that that's just how I come, or that's how I'm made, and removing judgment of myself, and just going, okay, like this is who I am, and I still bring worth in different ways. And so really just stop being so judgmental and harsh on myself. That gets me to a better place, that even if I'm not good over here, I might actually be better than someone else over here, and I can bring that to the party, right? And to the event, or whatever it may be that I'm working on. So, and your other portion, sorry, part of that question was what?
So there's acceptable imperfection and there's
Oh, yes.
imperfection that isn't acceptable to you at all. So what imperfection is not
Yeah.
acceptable to Jason?
Yeah. Well, certainly, like there's certain levels, like around my work, like I really strive for a very, very high standard upon myself, and sometimes that is defined for you and you have to level up to it, or sometimes it's defined, but you've already exceeded it, and you have your own standards. And sometimes that can cause some stresses and chaos because, your leader's like, yeah, you're good. You hit everything, but you're like, yeah, but no, like, I'm, I need to be higher. I need to be pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing the envelope, where you can just accept the status quo that you're right in the field. You don't need to be any better, and just um, keep going. So it's one of those things that I need to be probably more mindful of. Just being present in that moment when I'm stressing about it not being perfect, and just in some ways appreciate the imperfections, as well, and find kind of the meaning in them, the learnings from them. Like, okay, maybe there's a time limit and it's like I didn't get to it and it wasn't to my standard, but like, what did I learn from this, so I next time can exceed and get to my own standards.
I will end with this question because I don't want to bombard you with too many.
Mm-mm.
I find that, actually, before I kind of give my take on my thought on it, I'd love to ask
Yeah.
you, what is your litmus test between perfect and imperfection? How do you determine, if I were to show you like this dragon, for example, what
Cool.
defines it as perfect? What defines it as imperfect to you? Like,
Yeah.
how do you determine that?
Well, I think generally, if for me, my body tells me when I'm not perfect in something, right? Like, so if it's if I look at something and I'm like, yeah, it's not perfect, and I can talk myself out of it, like, you try to go, that's good enough, it's good enough, it's good enough. And if it's something severely important, I can start feeling it, right? And it actually comes up in my body physically. I can feel it, and it's stress. It feels like acid reflux, but it's actually just
Wow.
stress taking over my body. And so again, I think it comes back to that, being mindful of it and going, okay, like, I'm feeling this. What is it in my surroundings that I'm not happy with? Oh, it was this project. It's eating away at me a little bit. And so um, sometimes you just gotta smack yourself across the face and be like, look, it's really, really good. It may be not up to my standards, but nobody else is going to know. And it's still really, really awesome, and it's at X level. And try to embrace that, like, less than perfection, like, just like little baby steps, right? Like, maybe it's not here where I would want it to be, but it's still really good. Other people like it, enjoy it, and kind of work down a little bit and just level set.
Interesting. So
Hmm.
what I love about what you said there was almost like, rather than looking at it as a medium, starting from the absolute best and working down and seeing where is it comfortable in between the two. Because like you're like, okay, this isn't perfect, but it's definitely not horrible. And where do we
Yeah.
fit there? But I also love what you said about like your state of mind. Was there
Yeah.
something bothering you outside of this prior to, like, am I viewing this because I'm in a disturbed state of mind and something else is, I'm taking it out on this,
Yeah.
or is it
Yeah.
just like subjectively that? And I loved how in tune you are, that even your body can speak out and say, "Oh, no, like I don't like this." That's incredible intuition, man. Like that's cohesion right there.
Well, I'll tell you, it really went. I went down a medical path, right? Because I was like, "What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?" And at the time, I didn't have the mindfulness to, like. Your mind is so powerful, right? And it tells you when you're not in your desired state, or something's off. And so I went down the medical path, and it was like, okay, here's some pills and that should fix it. And it wasn't fixing it. I'm like, well, I got the pills. It should fix it, right? It's supposed to fix it. And it was actually my wife that kind of started having me tune in internally to my body, and it's just like, what is my brain telling me? What is, and when I could get stressed, or when I did get stressed, I could feel it bubbling up. So I started to just just take moments to like breathe. Just remind yourself, like, if it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out. Or if you're not successful, I still have this life. I'm alive. There's a lot worse
Mhm.
things that can happen to a
Absolutely.
person any given day. And I was, I would not say quickly able to control it, but over some years and just continuing to realize my body was telling me something and adjust and let things go or whatever I needed to do. I've been able to completely control it now. It's pretty wild.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah. How about you? What's your take?
On perfection and imperfection. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? If I had to give one term that in my mind and heart and soul, it'd be expectation. What defines
Mm,
perfection and imperfection, right? If you look at it from spouses, right? Like I've got some of my friends who are single right now, and they say, "I'm waiting for that perfect girl, man," and I'm like, "Well, what's
mm,
the expectation?" And they have a syllabus of like, oh man, I want, for her to like what I like, but also have her own personality, but like be good at home, but also have a good job. So I'm like, oh, so you're looking for a unicorn, right? Like, so that's where it's like,
yeah.
but where are these expectations coming from? Some of them like, well, my parents
Yeah.
were divorced as a kid. My ex-parent passed away. Like
Mm,
all these other things come into play here that you're like, you know
yep.
what? Like based on this, these are the reasons for expectations on what's perfect and what isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And if I look at it from a professional setting, like I've worked with perfectionists, and I am not a perfectionist at all because I know I'm just like
Mm,
if the job is done, the job is
yeah.
done. So
Hmm.
there's some people, let's say hey, make me a budget on Excel. Okay,
Yeah.
so all the contents there. Some of them like, well, I need this part on this side first, or hey, why didn't you color code it? Whatever. Well, you mean, and I
Hmm.
find that's just expectation based on how they perceive what their structure looks like, right? Like
Yeah.
perfection, I find there is a societal standard. Okay, like this is like the gold standard, Michelin star, you aim for this. There's also a personal standard which your leader may have of like, I like seeing work and ideas structured this way. And
Yeah.
then there is
Yeah.
your personal self, and you try to find synergies between. And I
Yeah.
that's where I kind of take this conversation, at least in my heart, of like if something is imperfect, what is not meeting to my expectation, and if it's that's imperfect, but if this wasn't perfect, why is my expectation what it is? One of my
Yeah.
buddies, I love this guy to death. Like I used to be a food snob, not anymore. I'm like, if this something is good, I will say this is good. Jason, I don't want to go on a tangent, but I did test it where I'll be like, oh hey, Popeyes has good fried chicken, and like, oh dude, you're an idiot. You got to go to this hole in the wall, climb down the sewer, and go here. And there's one guy that runs an exclusive shop. That's the best fried chicken, right? I'm like, listen,
Yeah.
and people like, oh, this is good, but it's not perfect. Well, what's expectation? How much better
Yeah.
can French fries possibly be? It's potatoes, oil, and fat. How much better can they be, right? So I find that like, what is your expectation? That like, do you want gold leaves on it? Like, what is it that you're sort of waiting for? But what I
Yeah.
also love about perfection, I truly believe perfection can exist in one realm, which is virtue.
Mhm.
I
Mm,
find if
love that.
treat like like, and I'll lead this towards Ramadan right now. Like
Yeah.
Ramadan is, they test us in patience and charity. Those are like the two
Yeah.
elements that you're tested in. Now,
Yeah.
I was mentioning to you before this call, it's easy to be patient when I have slept throughout the night and I have food in my belly. It's easy, like, if you're in a good mood and your kid breaks something, it's okay, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
You're make yourself tired and hungry, and it's like, oh my god, can any like, why did you break this? And it can be something so minute, and that's
Yeah.
where virtues are tested. And so you look at absolute perfect patience, and you try to
Yeah.
aim towards that of like patience is
Mm,
be still, be present, it's okay. Charity, like stepping out of yourself, right? It's easy to be
yeah.
charitable when you have when like, let's say you got $1 million and you gave
Yeah.
$10, that's not really anything to stress about. But if you have $100 and you're giving $10, now you're thinking about your pennies.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Yeah.
know what? This $100, I was gonna, it's the first bonus I've seen in a while. Let me treat myself because I've been so wise with my money. But now I see somebody on the street that doesn't have anything to eat. Now you're like, it becomes harder and tighter. And so
Mm,
that's where we start to see the degrees of patience of like, okay, you know what, I'm actually here. I'm not
yeah,
as impatient as I thought I was, but I have more places to go. And when I
yeah,
find chasing the virtue rather than, I guess, an expectation, it helps me find synergy, but also not beat myself too much with, oh man, I wouldn't classify myself as impatient, but I wouldn't put myself as a patient individual either. Because I was telling that story, man. I'm at a restaurant. This guy cut me off. I'm like, it. I could have let it go. This happened 3 weeks ago, and I'm still holding on to it. So clearly, I have issues. Like I ate right after him. It wasn't that big a deal, but here we
yeah,
are. So that's sort of
yeah,
how I kind of approach it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well.
yeah. Well, I think too something that you mentioned is number one, talking to your buddies and stuff like that. Looking for the unicorn as it may be, and I think all of us want what we you know desire and what we think we deserve, or the perfect um person or vehicle or house or whatever experience. But I think that and this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. I'm reflecting on it. It's like as time, as your years go on and you gain more experiences, and good, bad, and ugly, and everything in between, that can shift that perfection meter for you, right?
Mm,
Like, so your example of a friend is like looking for X, Y, Z in a woman because parents were divorced, and you know X, Y, and Z. That um, experiences gave them this. This is what perfect is because of this, right?
yeah.
And so so I think experiences really define that. And again, I'm looking through myself right now and just going, oh man, yeah, I can see why I was like that. Now that I reflect on it. And then I think environments as well can play into that too, right? Like your surroundings, you know, if you're at work and everybody else is at this higher level, um, you're like, I got to step up my game, right, to fit in with
Hmm.
this crew. Um, I think it can go the other way too. If it isn't as high and you can kind of take your game down. I think it's similar to golfing, right? It's like I don't play golf really. I go out there and I walk the stick with the ball. But like when I'm with great golfers, my game is increased. When I'm with bad golfers, well, I'm enjoying the booze cart, let's call it.
Oh,
So
for sure.
yeah, but to your point about virtue, I agree. I really love that. I think that's it's all about that perspective in the moment, and your circumstances as well, right? In that given moment. Again, like just sharing from Ramadan, like, if you're tired, you're hungry, chances are you're probably cranky, and it augments um what your expectations are and the things that can trigger you and demotivate you or motivate you, those kind of things. So
Sure. And I love what we've been like. I think even from the get go to now, we've been seeing this theme of our past and our life experiences impacting this concept of perfect versus imperfection. Like
yeah.
my mom was a perfectionist growing up. Even if
Mm,
I had a math homework at grade 2, and the grade 2 homework, I
yeah.
remember clear as day, it was round up. And my mom's like, but it wouldn't it be better to know if you knew the exact answer to the decimal? I'm like, but that's not the assignment. And I remember she made me write everything out to the exact like thing, and like the teacher marked it X, wrong, wrong. Oh, he can't read instructions. Like, no, my mom is just my mom. Like, what do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Like, yes, I
Yeah.
fear you at school, but I fear her at home. Like I have to. I played my cards, and this is what I chose this. So I
Yeah.
began in my earlier life, just embracing imperfections, going the other way with it. I
Yeah.
almost didn't like type A people because I was like, man, like if my mom
Mm,
cleaned my room, I was like, oh, my room is clean to me. But mom was like, no, like clothes need to be folded this way. Here's a crease. Like it was very much like that. So I went the
Yeah.
other way, and I'm like,
I
no.
see.
But then the problem with that was, yes, there's perfect, there's imperfect, but then there's a standard that everyone should meet. Like a
Mm-hmm.
tie should be done up properly. Your clothes
Yeah.
should be ironed, right? Like your hair should be combed. And, like part of my imperfection makes me a fun person, but then there's also
Yeah.
like I need to strive to be a little bit sharper out of just
Mm.
respect for the standard of where everyone else is. So that's
Mm.
sort of how I've always approached it based on my life experiences. And now I'm sort of in the middle. Like I'm like, you know what? I'll vacuum my area and keep it clean, but if my daughter paints on the wall, I won't lose my mind over it. My wife, I look over my shoulder, not as much. If there is, if, she'll clean the baseboards, man. I'm like, what the hell? Why? Like, who's looking down there? Like, so
Yeah.
that's where we sit there. So if you look at your life experiences to where it's gotten you right now, and you've seen like, childhood Jason a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more creative, expressive, didn't really care about his space as much. Now, like,
Yeah.
you strive for this. Why have your experiences led you to this perfection desire, or
Yeah.
led the stage?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and I love your, I think that's, when you talk about partners and stuff like that, there's like the yin and the yang is like gets you both into the middle, which is
Yeah.
super cool in your circumstance, right? Because you I think that's where the secret sauce is like right in the middle, right? It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be extreme in either side of the spectrum. If you can get into the middle, into that happy spot, that's good. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be imperfect, but it's good, maybe even a little bit great. That's a good spot to be. And for me, I think like I've come down, right? Like I feel like I was, and I think part of this was driven by career path and stuff like that. It was just climb corporate ladder, keep going, and be better. There's no ceiling. Like just keep doing better than you did the time before. And I think that rolled into my life as well, right? It was like, oh well, I'm successful in my job, and now it's like, oh well, I can afford these better things and these nicer things, and then
Hmm.
those nicer things become the standard, and then you're just like, well, you want to make sure it's perfect and pretty and all those good things. And so, and I think, again, trying to work on mindfulness for myself, I feel like I've come back and I'm getting better into that neutral, happy place, right? I can be content with my day
Hmm.
to day. You know, maybe I'm not where I want to be from a health perspective, but I am a unhealthy? No, right? Like,
Yeah.
do I need to pop 8 pills a day to be healthy, or can I actually just wake up and have the blessings of no issues, right? No pains. And so yeah, maybe you don't have to be way out on the spectrum over here. Um, Finding that, just that mindfulness to say, hey, this is all good, right? Similar to your daughter, as you said, like she's drawing on the baseboards and stuff like that, and it's just like, think about that. Okay, well, you know, that's not great for the baseboards, but like I just got to experience my daughter having a great time drawing on the baseboards, and
Hmm.
she's a really good artist and good little colorer and all that stuff. And you're just like, there's this balance, and I think that's what I'm working towards and trying to get into that nice, good spot.
I love what you said, Jason, about contentment, because I feel like that really is the ultimate
Hmm.
remedy to like identifying perfection versus imperfection. Because when you're content, like the way I kind of mentally perceive that term, it's I like if I got more than this, I'm happy, but as
Yeah,
long as I don't have less than this, I'm okay. Like
yeah,
that's sort of
yeah,
like where I see that kind of in that medium piece there. And I feel like less than contentment's imperfection, more than contentment's great, but even more than that is perfection. And that's
yeah,
where discontent can exist. Of like,
yeah.
oh man, like my car should look this way, my body should look that way. I look at Arnold Schwarzenegger all the time, like for like I love watching his blueprints and I love watching his old stuff. I'm like, man, that's
Yeah.
like, to me, I see that as perfect like physical
Yeah.
conditioning. I'm like, this guy looked
No doubt.
incredible, like big biceps, like lean, like like to his hip. I'm like that doesn't logically make sense. But then I'll show my wife. I'm like, doesn't that look like a perfect specimen? And she's like, that looks gross to me. Like that's just like,
Uh,
and that's where it kind of wakes me back up. I'm like, huh, maybe perfect isn't perfect. But I like, what, like, I'm like, what do you know? This guy's awesome.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Get out of here. It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's the coolest man alive,
Like,
right?
you're over 6 feet tall and you're built like that, and like
Yeah.
like, you have long hair too. I was like, man, this guy's got everything, man.
Yeah, it's true. It's almost like just perspective
Yes,
around, it's like if we all, that's a prime example, right? It's just one's perspective versus another's perspective is completely different. One person can be like, oh, this isn't good enough. This isn't great enough. I need to do more. I need to do better. And the other person looks at them and goes, oh, they're super successful. They look really, really happy and driven and blah, blah, blah. Yet that person in themselves is still desiring more, right? And I think that's where you know, I don't think it's always like good to compare yourself to others, but I think, as you said, finding the contentment within yourself, um, versus all this stuff on social media that you see, I think is really the safe spot. That's the secret sauce.
100%. And I'll end on this sentiment here, and I'll end it on an
Yeah.
art sentiment. We began on an artistic space, and
Yes.
we'll
Yes.
end it on an artistic space. And I'm
Good.
not an artist, so that's why I'll let you have the final word on it. Um, I love collecting art in my basement. I think I've showed you my Lord of the Rings painting,
Yes.
and
Super cool.
my friend Amanda, she drew it, and there was moments where she just kept needing to add one more thing, adding one more thing, and then her
Mm.
husband had to say, honey, it's done. It's done. For me, I was like, it was perfect to me 8 pictures ago when she was showing me like the progress of it. Dude, she just sketched it, and I'm like, I'm ready
Yeah.
to grab it. She's like, no, I got a few more things to do here, right? Like me and my non-artist brain, but I'm like, it's perfect
Yeah.
now. Wait, no, it's perfect now. It's perfect now. But
Yeah.
her drive was like, it was so minute, and she just kept needing, it's like one more stroke here in this Tower of War thing, one more tree in this forest here, like just one more thing. And
Hmm.
she was like, it was paralysis to the point where she needed
Yeah.
someone to pull her out and say it's done. And when
Yeah.
I was like, it's perfect, and she's like, oh, but did you notice that or that? I'm like, no, no,
Mm.
I didn't. And so all in all, she was happy that I was happy. That's the kind of person she is. But like from
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
artistic realm, that perfection was so paralyzing that she wasn't able to step back to the point where she needed people to be like, it's good. you
Put
know?
the pencil down. It's over.
Yeah. So
Oh
I'll leave
man.
it to you on that sort of
Yeah.
note of like just your thoughts on artistic perfection.
Oh man, I'm so with her. I can tell you right now. Um, but it is a like I think again perspective. It's like the other person looks at that person is like I can't even draw a happy face well, right? And here's this person doing this beautiful piece, and but again, they keep on pushing themselves and pushing themselves. I think sometimes we need that balance again of someone else just giving you a different point of view and saying it's good, like let it be. But I completely align with the art side of things. I showed you that tiger I was drawing and trying
Yes.
to. I want to challenge myself, and it was just like okay, just put in the hours, put in the hours, put in the hours, put in the hours, and it was starting to piss me off. Even my wife was like, "You look mad. You look angry." And I'm like, "It's not perfect," you know. And I did just have to hang it up because there was that was the way it was going to end, and now I actually quite like it. So it's in a good spot. So I'm content. So I'm taking that one that tip from you for sure, among
you know,
others.
it's funny, but with my wife, like if I'll be doing something I enjoy, like let's say video games or fishing, at some point I will get irritated when things aren't going my way, and she's like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "It's fun. I'm having fun." And she's like,
Yeah,
"Okay."
right.
It's
Uh,
well, I mean,
yeah,
cheers to perfection, sort of elevating our craft, but also like too much of it can take the love and joy out of it too, right? So,
True.
but
True.
honestly, Jason, thank you for this
Yeah. Thank
topic.
you.
I think it's super beautiful, and I think today more than ever, right? Like we're like, and not to get political, but we have an election coming up that's so major in Canada right now. Everyone's looking
Yes.
for the perfect candidate, the perfect
Yep.
party, the perfect solution to this. Perfection and desire is around us every which way we go. And, I think if we take some stuff from this call of like expectation alignment, contentment of
Yeah.
like what will we be content with in the next 5 years, like or
Yeah.
four
That's
years,
true.
right?
That's
What
true.
are we truly expecting? And if our expectations are overzealous, and maybe it's taking a step back of like, okay, maybe let's move this incrementally versus let's move it an inch instead of a mile,
Yep.
and have realistic expectations. And then so I just find this topic to be so topical, and not just externally, but even
Yeah.
internally.
Internally.
Winters
Yeah. For
are
sure.
such a hard time, and we're cooped up inside. It makes a man think, and it makes anybody think, right? And so,
Yes.
just very, very thoughtful. And thank you for including me in this. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I'll leave it with this because it was something I kind of was like thinking about. Embracing imperfection can lead to greater self compassion, resilience, and overall well being. How do you feel about the idea of embracing those imperfections versus uh, griping about them or getting pissed off about them, right? So those are my gonna leave with it.
Oh, was it an actual question to me, or was that like a
No, that
rhetorical
was my
question?
that that was my rhetorical question for any listeners out there. That's pretty much
Yes,
it.
that's beautiful,
Awesome.
Jason.
Hassan, always a pleasure. Thank you for helping me. This I came in pretty raw with this conversation. It was just one I wanted to have because I still have a lot of learning to do. And he gave a lot of great insight, a lot of great tips and tricks on how I can move forward with my imperfections.
Well, and likewise, Jason. And I loved just the end quote there. I think it summarized this whole thing beautifully. And it's definitely something I will think about as well. Because when you said, oh, you want an answer, like, oh, man, I don't have that right now. I'll have to text you later.
Yeah, that's take it away and observe it, and then come back to me with your answer. There you go.
Absolutely. Take care, Jason. Appreciate your time.
You as well, Hassan. Thank you.